and welcome to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm John Dykes, and tonight I'm joined by Brian Degning and Russell Boyce to talk back through what has been a hard-fought victory this evening in the Netherlands. And just where we're sitting here, let's have a wee hello from one of our long-time ACSOM contributors who's feeling a wee bit under the weather. It's our very own Kevin Graham. Kevin, did you just want to come in for a wee fist bump and enjoy the moment?
Aye, thanks very much. We got away with that one, but it was good. What I'll say is, if we want to play like that at this level in Europe, we've got to buy better or develop better players. But hey, we're in the Europa League draw for the more, That's it. And thanks everybody for asking for me. I'm away to sleep. I'm like Tom Rogic, man. I'm absolutely shafted. I hope nobody gets this, man. I really do.
Get well soon. There's our COVID sufferer, Kevin Graham, wearing the worst headset ever, as if he's working in a call centre there, Boyce boy. Listen, loads to discuss in that second half. First question I'm going to throw out to you guys. Did AZ Alkmaar tire after 60 minutes? Did they? Is that when Celtic started coming into the game? I'm not sure. Anyway, loads to discuss. First and foremost, Brian Degning, talk us through that second half performance. Much better managed. I know what Kevin Graham's saying there, but I felt it was much better managed in the second half.
Yeah, well, the biggest difference was, and I mentioned it at half time, it was the midfield. When we changed the midfield, that changed the game. When Christie dropped in and we started to get a bit more aggression and a bit more possession in the midfield, it took the pressure off the defenders. It calmed things down a bit, and it started being able to pick out passes to the front men. Got to give a wee shout out to Colin, because I did slate him at the start of the show, and he did make a good call about Edward and his hold-up ability, because I thought when Eddie came on, he really done pretty well. I think he looked good, he looked strong. I think I added a good dimension, but for me the big change was in midfield. I say it was totally bypassed in the first half. It invited a lot of pressure, but then when Christie dropped in and replaced Roderick, you got a lot more energy, and I think it made a big difference.
Well, you know, when Kevin Graham opens a show, and I know that he is lurking about in the background, he normally opens Scream of Celica with a wee lyric, and I'm going to do the same this evening. No one ever said it was going to be easy, and the lyric was sung by Marquis Smith on the Inspiral Carpet song I Want You. Russell Boyce, no one ever said it was going to be easy. We certainly did not find that easy. They were a decent side, though.
They were a very good side. I mean, I think there was plenty of warning signs from the first leg as well. To be fair, yeah, I'll give you your due. I thought they maybe did slightly ease off after 60 minutes. But I don't know if it was them tiring or Tom Rogic coming off for us, our player of the season so far. So either way, the game's a bogey for me tonight, Paul, But I thought, we managed it better in the second half. There was still a few moments where, Scott Baines, what's in your mouth and all that, but it was definitely, it was better. I mean, at the end of the day, Ange gets pass marks for me because we got through the tie. We navigated what was, on paper, an extremely difficult tie, and we got through it. End of story. We scored in both legs, home and away. I think it's just when you're playing against that level, I think Kev's touched on it there. I just felt that when you were looking at AZ, I think if they'd played more games this season, they might look at Celtic as a bit the same way we look at Midtjylland and think, see, in 10 games' time, if we'd played Celtic home and away, they might feel a lot more confident. I actually think that, the attacking football they play, particularly first half, has suited them down to the ground. And I think we just need, I think we need experience at the back. I know I keep saying that, but I'm not trying to turn it into points I used to make and all that nonsense. I genuinely thought that's what we were crying out for the back. Martin's Indy. I actually thought, they made clever fouls. Even once he was booked, he made clever fouls, broke up the play, never let us get momentum at any stage in the match. That could be key when you're going to be playing this. You call it Ange ball, I call it mad ball. It's what you're watching it's bonkers, but fair play to Ange. At the end of the day, he's got us through what is on paper the hardest team we've played this season, 100%. We've scored home, we've scored away. We're into the group stages, hurrah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what kind of ball last year was. Maybe the burst ball, I think, was last year. But we're talking about the game management, and this is the first thing I want to speak about. 3 seconds into the second half, we kick off and we've lost the ball. 3 seconds into that second half. AZ, up until about the 60th minute, I think they continued with their tempo. They never gave us an inch. And I think that when you're playing a team, and it's not going to happen too often domestically, but when you're playing a team that plays such a high press and at such a high intensity, you cannot pass the ball about the way we were passing the ball about at the back. There was one occasion where Stephen Welsh gets the ball and he knocks it back into our own box, 12 yards out to Starfelt. Now, we already spoke about this at halftime. Starfelt, I don't think, looks that comfortable when faced with that kind of ball on his feet. I think he looks far more comfortable going for headers and winning tackles. But the ball comes to him 12 yards out. So we've got possession 12 yards out, and he ends up losing possession. They get a shot, and thankfully it never came to nothing. But that, for me, is a lesson. We've said before, in adversity, you learn a lot more about football teams, and I think we've learned that tonight, Brian.
I mean, I think that comes to the personnel more than the sort of the actual game itself, because I think, you know, Boyce made a good point there. If maybe that was a more experienced centre-half, he maybe would have made the decision just to lump it, or made the decision to make a wider pass and no make that pass. It's kind of what we say about Joe Hart. It's having that experience of, yes, this is the system we play, this is the way we're going to play, but if you're under too much pressure, it's fine to just lump it. You can do that, you're allowed. So I think maybe an experienced head at the back might have made a different decision there. That being said, you know, we criticise the defence a lot, and rightly so, but they were under intense pressure. And to be fair, you know, Joe Hart came out with a couple of saves. We saw it out. We did. And then, you know, I think Ange done the same as he done in the first leg. Towards the end, they sort of dropped a little bit deeper, contained it a little bit more. So these defenders, I mean, Montgomery, I thought was brilliant. I mean, come on, I thought he had a really good game.
Listen, Brian, I would give him man of the match. I'd give him man of the match tonight. Under the circumstances, absolutely.
I think he had a really, really strong game, and I think, yeah, we can say the decision making wasn't great for the back. That's obvious, and then maybe experience would have helped that. By the end of the day, they did see it out, and they saw it out as a team. And as I say, I think when we talk about the Ange ball or mad ball or bonkers ball, whatever we're calling it, Thunderball, if we'd have sat in against Alkmaar, right, and said, right, let's shut up shop and try and sneak it, we'd have still had the same amount of pressure, but we had no outball. So I don't know that it would have made too much a difference if we'd have sat in or tried to attack. I think they were so relentless in that first half, and we were so bypassed. I think we'd have been absorbing so much pressure we'd have conceded anyway. I think at least we had an outball, especially towards the end of the second half, about the, as you say, Paul, about the 60-odd minute mark. We did play a bit better, and I think that's where, you know, we can be critical about always trying to attack, but sometimes when you sit in too much, you're just inviting that sort of pressure anyway. It's like teams that are going to play us in Scotland, like St Mirren tried to sit in against us and get absolutely scalped. If they try to attack us, they probably get scalped as well. Sometimes you're just up against a better team, and the fact was, I think, you know, Alkmaar are comfortably, like by a good distance, the best team we've played this season. Mm-hmm. And I think Boyce made a good point, Paul. If they were 10 games in, it might be a different result. But the fact is, we've come through that test with a paper-thin squad, with Ange in the door a couple of months. And if you'd have told us at the start of the season when Ange came in, we're going to try and better a new team, better in this attacking football, and we're still going to qualify for the group stage, I think we'd have bit his hand off.
I don't think, though, see like the ways of football, like, not in a bad way, I don't think there's like, it has to be all-out attack or it has to be camped in either. There's many ways to skin a cat.
Yeah, and that's what I think he did towards the end of it. I think towards the end, he sort of, you can see the all drop in narrower. What I'm saying though is, like, there was at one point 5 minutes to go, McGregor gets the ball just inside his own, so just inside the centre circle, and he's trying to play a big, glorious through ball that was unlikely, to be frank, to come off. But he's not really under pressure either at that point either. And I just feel at that point, are we learning, you know, quick enough on, you know, on the job almost? You know, you're looking at this, the way the match is going, the amount of time left, you know, what's at stake. And then again, another example of it where, I just feel
needs must sometimes was there's a square ball played within our own box by Joe Hart from a goal kick to Starfelt, who you've already highlighted, Paul, is uncomfortable and looked to anyone watching kind of uncomfortable with getting these sort of passes. Yeah, again, I think it was in the last 10 minutes of the match. There's a square ball played, even later maybe than that, a square ball played from a goal kick inside our own box, and we gave the ball away within 2 passes of trying to get out of that. And I just think
your earlier point on it, Russell, though, about experience, like, I think, because you're spotting with the Cal McGregor thing, he should have known to not make that pass. So I think Postecoglou showed good game management for me, because he changed a wee bit, tried to get it to sit back. He changed the formation slightly. He made subs at the right times. But it still comes down to the players to make these decisions, to not make those dangerous passes, to take the initiative, to say, right, I know we're trying to play out, but let's go safety first. So I think you're right. I think Postecoglou sets up a certain way, but it still has to come down to the players, to analyse the situation and know this is a crazy pass to make. Let's just lump it and be safe. And I think that will come over time, because remember as well, he's only been in charge a couple of months. It's going to take a bit of time.
Well, that's the point that's coming in from Cam Relaxed Life, which was anything but the way that we felt in that second half. Outstanding result, given where we were just a few weeks ago. And if you were to look back at the post-match after the game and the defeat against Hearts at Tynecastle, we were at that stage following quite closely after the Midtjylland shenanigans, and also the West Ham game, which, although it was a friendly, they embarrassed us that day. And we spoke about the need for more players to be in at that stage. All these games down the line, we have qualified, and we've qualified against a very good side, Brian, like you say, a very good side. And I think that when we look back on that result, tomorrow's going to be great when you find out who's in your group and everything else. When we look back on that result, I think we will realise, given the circumstances, just how pivotal that was. And again, even though we were under the cosh, because, they played such a high press and they've done it so well. They've got some right good players. We came through it. So again, that feeds into the momentum, Boyce, that you were talking about, at half-time, when, you come through that, having not been at your best, having had a couple of kind of poorer performances. And I want to talk about Starfelt, and I'm not going to say Hart was a poor performance, but I've got a theory on that as well. Then surely that feeds into the momentum and the confidence going into this weekend's game as well, Russell.
Totally. There was 2 sides to it. Obviously, if we'd actually picked up a victory tonight, albeit we still went through the exact same as what we have tonight, getting through was the key. But if you get the victory, I think you go in with more swagger. What I felt, if I'm being completely honest, was I felt there's a couple of weaknesses exposed, maybe, before the event. I would have liked them to. I would have liked to have played the second leg against AZ next Thursday, and went to Ibrox on Sunday before that. I thought there was a couple of things where, they'll be watching that and thinking they can be got at. The 6-0s maybe have been a bit daunting, and then they'll have seen the other side of Celtic tonight and thought, yes, they got through, fair enough, and the second half performance was an improvement. But I think definitely there was a few weaknesses exposed. You talked about Joe Hart's performance. I thought there was a couple of good saves. You're saying you've got a theory on it. My theory on Hart would be his decision-making as to when to come out and when not to looks to be a bit flawed. We spoke about it at half-time that there's a couple of instances now where he looks like he's been hesitant. And then, of course, what does he do the second half? He obviously watches ACSOM. He comes flying out to a ball that he had absolutely no chance again. And by doing so, again, ended up sort of dashing about his box in an unnatural position, making, made a save at the edge of his 6-yard box almost by the end of it with the side of his arm. And you're thinking, that was going for a ball you realistically was covered at the very least, by centre half. So I couldn't really understand that. And then that makes you then, when you flip it, you look at the first goal and you go, what on earth? Like, where was that urgency then? So that was the 2 sides to him. But you've got to say as well, a couple of the saves he made were outstanding. I think when you watch the highlights reel of that match back, you'll think Joe Hart had a better game than what perhaps that first goal kind of plays in your mind, you know what I mean, and makes you think,
well, That was the thing that I always take from Alan Morrison, who does the stats, Celtic by numbers, is that you remember the moments rather than the entire performance. And it's only sometimes when you go back, you remove the emotion from it, Brian, you can watch a game with a fresh set of eyes and say, well, actually, performance-wise, over the 90-odd minutes, pass marks and some. Kakashi 777 reminds us, come on, it was messy, but we weathered the storm. We certainly did. In terms of my own theory on it, Russell, before I speak about Hart, I need to speak about Starfelt. I do have some concerns about him. Now, I know that actually in the last 3 minutes of the game, he made two commanding pieces of defensive clearance work, play, whatever you want to call it. There was an interception, there was a header, and I thought he'd done really, really well with that. But see, if we're going to play this game, and we are, because Ange has already said, we'll play our game going into this particular match, then Starfelt, for me, my concern is he doesn't actually suit that game, because a lot of that game is ball at the feet, ball in your own box where you turn round and what you're facing tonight, 3 or 4 red jerseys pelting down on you, and you've got to be comfortable on that ball. You could see that they were reluctant to put their toe through it. You could see it a number of times that they're reluctant to put their toe through it, because really, if they're not playing that style of football, they've not got the ball in their own 6-yard box and they're not panicking. So I think the instinctive defensive play that he plays, I think he does that well. He wins headers, he wins tackles, the interceptions. But when put under pressure, there was a moment, and it was picked up on in the commentary team, he gets the ball, under no pressure whatsoever, and he plays it 10 yards behind Welsh. He played it behind Welsh, which means Welsh is now facing his own goalkeeper and he's under pressure. And we eventually lost possession as a result of that. So that is a massive concern. I'm not convinced after 8 games, I'm not convinced with Carl Starfelt, Brian. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, can I agree? I think he's a strange egg, Carl Starfelt, because I feel like if games are 2 hours long, he'd grow into it, and the last hour of the game he'd be pretty good, because he never seems to start any game well. Like, he always looks really daunted until it gets to kind of half time or second half, because even this game tonight, he did a pretty decent second half by all accounts, whereas I thought he was pretty poor in the first half. So I don't know, maybe he's taking a bit of time to acclimatise to the system. I don't know if, maybe it's just the way he's a player. I don't know, but you're right, because when there's very extremes, because he looks lost and nervous with the ball, or he looks really commanding and aggressive when he tackles. So jury's out on him for the moment. I think I'd said before we were talking about him, there's not been a game yet where I went, Starfelt done well. But I've also not really thought he's been a bomb scare either. So again, I think he would benefit from having someone else there. I think that's why we need another centre half, because maybe if he was out the team, he could get a bit of rest, refocus, retrain, come back in. That might suit him better. I think there's a lot of pressure on him just now. Stephen Wales done pretty well tonight. First half aside with his mistake. Ralston again was, wasn't brilliant, but what he was doing was putting his body in the line, and he was really, there you go, Braveheart. He was charging at tackles, he was brave, he was strong, he was aggressive, and I thought he showed a lot of character as well. So still loads of positives. Although we lost the game tonight, we're looking good. And just to pick up on something Boyce said quickly, they're talking about if Rangers saw this game tonight, they'd see weaknesses. Well, if we saw their game earlier, I don't think we've anything to be scared of. They really struggled to score against 10 men, and again, a very poor 10 men. Whereas we've played a very, very good side and come through it despite the pressure. One or 2 legs beat them. So there's 2 ways of looking at that. I think anyone could say to any team, the way you get to Celtic is attack their fullbacks and try and do a high press on them. But it's whether they're capable or not. I don't think it's difficult to see where the weaknesses are, but I think to execute them, if we play our game, I think it's hard to stop us.
That's the difference, Brian, isn't it? I mean, even if you know that is what AZ done well tonight, how many teams in Scotland can do that to Celtic? And that's the difference. And then obviously when it comes to us breaking and us attacking, you've seen how good we've done that. Now, with regards to the comments, I'm going to dip in and out of the comment section. We've got Joe Millen saying it was never in any doubt, which is why I hid in the kitchen for the last 5 minutes. Absolutely. And Toby T, 1967, we dug that one out. I'll tell you what, we did that a couple of times with Brendan Rodgers in the qualifiers. The Champions League group stages or the Europa League group stages, that's where it gets to the nitty-gritty, where you're in there and there's some big names and that kind of thing. But you often have to look back and say, well, we scraped through You know, and if we scrape through, great, because you just want to be in the promised land, don't you? And I understand I wasn't keeping an eye on other results that were ongoing during that, but I think St Johnstone and Aberdeen both were knocked out, weren't they? So it's only Celtic and Rangers, both in the Europa League group stages, going into the latter stages of Europe. And Gary Murphy, 7, Starfelt, brutal first half, command in second half. Not the first time we've seen that either, Brian, so it's not a bad point. You know, he does seem to come into the game. My biggest concern, I feel, is we're kind of holding off for Julien to get fit. You know, now we've mentioned this before, Boyce, and we've had a lot of people with a far better knowledge than me on Irish football saying that, you know, Liam Scales is an excellent player. He can play centre half, he can play left back. But I just think that's not the type we're looking for. Now, this takes me into and I don't mean don't sign him. Absolutely sign him. You know, he's got the potential. I'm saying he's a project signing because I don't think he's going to get thrown right into the first team. But I don't think Hart, going back to that point you made, Boyce, when he comes right out to the edge of his box to try and punch it, but it was never on and he was never going to win it. That's because he didn't believe his centre-halves were going to actually clear that out. And that's a concern for me, because that takes me into the realms of Joe Hart doing things that ordinarily, if he was confident with his centre-halves, he wouldn't do.
Well, we spent £4 million on one defender, Carl Starfelt. We spent, I think, just 2.5 on Juranovic, but that was only in the past week. The centre-back was obviously seen as a priority. There was a lot of expense on it. And yet the gut feeling is Starfelt doesn't look like someone who fits Angie's system. We could go back to the conversation we were having earlier, I think it was pre-match, about transfer strategies and things like that, because, you know, it's a big chunk of change to be thrown at a defender you don't actually think suits the style of football we play. And I've got to subscribe to it, Paul, because to be completely honest with you, every time the ball goes to Starfelt's feet, I'm actually, you know, concerned about what he's going to do with the ball. And in all the matches I've seen, this isn't just a one-off tonight. There was instances of it. I've seen numerous occasions where he's given the ball away, or he's played a pass that's put another defender under pressure, or he's just by hook or by crook got a pass into the sort of domain of the player he's passing to, and the pace is off. Mm-hmm. And do you know what I mean? The accuracy is off. I just think he looks under pressure playing in this system. The system ain't going to change. So Carl Starfelt, now it is. I would like to have seen the £4 million spent on a centre-back that comes in very comfortable at playing Ange ball, if you want to call it that, you know, because that to me would have made sense, with Julien then coming back in, Welsh as your backup or whatever, and then perhaps even still, you know, someone with experience as well to be there in the mix. But I definitely think right now, Julien is going to need to, you know, be the guy who receives these sort of short goal kicks. There's going to be a huge onus on a guy that we're easing back from a horrible injury that he said he's been out for a long time. And I almost feel like unless we bring in another experienced centre-back before deadline day, which is only, 3-4 days away, then I just think that the pressure on Julien's going to be ramped up. And I don't think that's really fair when a player's been out for the best part of 12 months.
You're almost throwing them right in and expect them to play every game, because I think when we think of Julien, we think he's a first-choice centre-half.
And to this new style too. So he's not going to get a better-in period either. That's the flip side. It's just it's a bit much to put on him, I think. And if you had someone like when we signed Kolo Touré, right, it was blatantly obvious he was signed to qualify for the Champions League and then to be used sort of. I think he phased out the team really by Christmas time, wasn't he? In the second half of the season, barely featured, but it served its purpose. Do you know, it really did serve its purpose. And you can only imagine that he was having a huge influence behind the scenes, so much so he got given a coaching role once he retired. So obviously there's loads of benefits of having someone, a wise old head in there at the back, and I definitely think there is an argument for that right now. I know it won't be Gary Cahill, I know that, but there's other options out there, and it'd be nice to see one of them used.
See, when we look at the success that we had, Brian, over the 9 in a row period, and you think of the centre halves that we had, the partnerships, and we look back fondly on players like Van Dijk and Denayer, for example. I think Boyata He had his moments as well, by the way, with the ball at his feet. But you look at Boyata, he's someone who's gone on and proved at a higher level, at international level, just how good a player he is. I think that's something that's missing, but it's been missing for a wee while. Some people said that Julian and I had a decent enough partnership, but obviously that seemed to have been broken up somewhat with injury. We basically are now looking for a new partnership. Is it going to be Starfelt and Julian? Is it going to be Julian and Welsh? Is it going to be Julian and A and other? It's still a conundrum for Ange to solve. And I think tonight it is a slight concern, but I don't want it all to be concerning. Paul Brady comes in. Who would have predicted a couple of months ago we would have made Europa League qualification against a decent team like AZ, or is it AZ? Well done, Ange and the boys. Absolutely. Don't take away from the fact that this is a cracking result. I mean, I was screaming it full time there. Brilliant. Yeah. Great to be back into it to that level, rather than deeply disappointed with the results that we were getting like last season. But we need to also talk about the fact that Greg Taylor, he fell pretty badly. It looked pretty innocuous. He falls, he injures himself, tries to play on. It's almost as if it's dislocated. You could actually hear him saying it's gone again. You could hear him saying it on the sidelines. So there is a potential that Greg Taylor's going to be out for the game against Rangers on Sunday. Now, obviously, we brought in a new right back to cover that area. Now, Brian, it takes us to that dilemma that we spoke about. At the moment, it looks as though we're pretty well covered at left back until we get an injury, and the injury has happened. Now, for me, Montgomery was I thought, excellent under the circumstances. He's thrown in, he's going to be playing most of the game. When did Taylor go off? 20-odd minutes, I think it was, right? So Montgomery comes in. I thought he done really, really well. There's a player, there's a boy who's comfortable with the ball at his feet, without a shadow of a doubt. So going into the Rangers game, in the past, there have been occasions where a young player who's been introduced into the team is thrown in against Rangers. And it's a difficult one. We've seen it last season with Stephen Welsh. He came through that. It was a bad performance by the team. Do you think that you've got enough confidence that Montgomery will start against Rangers on Sunday? Because after tonight's performance, I'd be quite happy with that.
See, even if he hadn't played tonight, if he didn't come on tonight, I would still think he would start, because I think he's a better bet than ball and goalie. And if we're honest, it's more out of necessity than desire. But I think he'll play. I think he'll acquit himself well. He's comfortable on the ball. He seems to work well in this sort of system. He looks aggressive as well. He's not scared to have a tackle. His positioning's good. I wouldn't have any fear, if I'm honest, playing him in. I think Greg Taylor gives you a bit more experience. And obviously he's a decent passer of the ball. He's not a great crosser. He's a good passer. But I would have no hesitation putting Montgomery in. I think we've got more than enough in the team. Around the rest of the team, they don't have to worry. But it does highlight what we keep saying. And it's no disrespect to Greg Taylor or Montgomery, but we need a left back. And like you, Paul, the boy Scales, like I've not seen much of him, a couple of YouTube clips. But unless he's head and shoulders better than Taylor, we shouldn't be signing him. Unless he's head and shoulders better than Starfelt or Welsh, he shouldn't be coming in centre half either. We should only be spending money on people at the moment, in my opinion, getting bodies in that are better than what we have, and I'm not sure he is. So I still think even if he comes in, we need a left back. I just don't see the club, when you've got Taylor, Scales, Montgomery and Bolingoli, sanction a move for another left back. I also don't know they're going to spend any money in a centre half. I think it'll be a loan deal probably. But like Russell said, actually, a loan deal for a kind of older head might not be the worst idea. Get them in for a season, help them steady the ship, and then they can go back to their club or whatever. So I don't think that's actually the worst call. And then you can say that to the club as well and say, look, I know we've got a bunch of centre halves, but we need someone in. So, but listen, just to sum up, I think we should be absolutely delighted tonight. I know the performance wasn't brilliant, but considering the strides we've taken, I mean, look at the start of the season, Paul. I think we had a chat and we said, look at our back four. Using made a joke about it last year. We got into Champions League qualifiers with a back four of Beaton, Welsh, Ralston, Taylor. And we've been in impressive league form. We knocked Hearts out of the cup, got a wee bit of revenge against them, and we're through the Europa League group stage, and we've played good football. And we've got a manager that has got a vision and a philosophy and a determination that we've not had for a while. So I think it's very early days. And yeah, there's still things in the team that need to be fixed, but imagine how we'll be in 4 months of playing this way, or 8 months, or a year, or 2 years. I think the future's bright. Certainly no Orange, but the future's bright. I think there's a lot of special times ahead, and I think this is a brilliant result, and I think we need to celebrate it and give credit where it's due.
Yeah, and another thing I would say is, we're talking about this time last year. This time last year, we'd brought in a lot of players and we hadn't really seen any of them flourish. I mean, it took a wee while before Turnbull comes into the team and he shows what he can do. Now, I think that although we've had some words to say about Starfelt, you can look upon the signings of Hart, Abada, Kyogo as being successes, So that's another positive. We've brought in new players into the side, Boyce, and they've actually hit the ground running and they've made a huge positive impact. Kyogo's goal tonight, we barely mentioned it. That for me, that's such an important goal. And we look back on that goal, and the pass from Abada, first half, that was crucial, and it'll be crucial to this season. I just want to give a big shout out to Sean Mayer, watching from Australia, 6 a.m. Good man, Sean, and I hope you've enjoyed tonight. We do obviously talk about the positives and the negatives. We're all absolutely delighted that we managed to get the result. But before we go, I think we want to also speak, Russell, because we did talk about these two guys during the weekend before the game, Ryan Christie. And Michael McKernan now believes that Christie will stay. Another lung-bursting performance by Ryan Christie. There was a moment, I think it was actually into the injury time, where he's chasing down a ball up at the right corner flag. The next time you see him, and I'm talking 30 seconds later, he's on the left-hand side winning a shy. I mean, the engine that Ryan Christie has, the dedication, the application, sometimes it goes a wee bit unnoticed. I mean, I'm championing Montgomery, but you could probably say, if you were really to analyse Christie's performance tonight as well, Russell, he was one of the best performers.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's just in a rich vein of form, full stop. As you say, he could play 90 minutes if there was extra time. He had no hesitation. He would feature for the full half-hour extra time if it had went that far. With regards to the new deal, I mean, it's one of those points that we've exhausted. I think, it's like the more he plays like this, the harder it's going to be for Celtic to let him go and have a good case for it. Do you know what I mean? Because fans, like we were speaking about earlier, we are very much, your opinions are contrived by what you're watching on the pitch at that period, in that period of time. And right now, losing Christie looks like just an absolute no-no. Whereas at the start of the summer, if you sell Christie, come see, come ça. That's mad. How does that happen? Do you know what I mean? So quickly. And yet it does feel like that. And I'm firmly on that bus as well. I would get Ryan Christie signed up. And I think there was a point made, was it JP the day was saying, just do what you did with Stuart Armstrong. Clearly his head's turned slightly, but say, extend it by 20 months, whatever it is, to the end of next season. But we'll sell you next summer, but at least build your stock up again. Get your profile back to where it should be for a player of your quality. Make an impact this year. Get us in the Champions League. And then you'll have another decision to make. But then, obviously, come next summer, hopefully the suitors that are showing an interest in you are of Christie's interest, pique his interest, and secondly, actually give us the sort of longer we think that we should be getting for a player of his ability, because right now you're watching a valuation that's teetering away to nothing. Fine well, to me now it makes more sense to keep him till January. If his contract ends in December or January, is it? January. It's bizarre. But I would say now it makes more sense for what he can bring to the table on the pitch to just keep him either way till then. And then obviously over that period of time, you can gauge whether he wants to stay, whether he doesn't. If he doesn't, use that time to find an adequate replacement. Not just someone we've thought of this summer, but someone we can actually sit down and take time to analyse and get the perfect replacement in for. And then, wish him well in January. Otherwise, of course, you've got the 3-4 months to keep nibbling at his ear, you know what I mean? Bit affectionate, but you know what I mean. Too easy. I don't know what they said. I don't know what they say.
Mate, you just keep making these things up, and I love it. Yeah, absolutely. Stephen James, great to hear from you, Stephen. Hail, guys. Good show. And we're reminded by Snowman that the match actually started at 4:15 a.m. Oz time. Well, thank you, everybody who's in Australia tuning in. Are you tuning in to a Celtic State of Mind? Just one wee point, and this is something that was raised by Brian some time ago, and I like it. I like the way that he looks at this. If you are watching this show and you think we've been negative all day, I think you're focusing on the negatives yourself, because we haven't been negative. However, when you come through something like tonight, and by the way, we're on a wave of optimism and positivity here at ACSOM, then you've got to also look, because now is the time to then look at any deficiencies and get them sorted out. We want to do as well as we possibly can in the group stages. There were moments tonight that were really, really poor in terms of the defending. I mean, the 2 goals we conceded, just have a look at the 2 goals and ask yourself, were they well defended? Should we just ignore them? Absolutely no. On both counts. But there's plenty of positivity tonight. I'm delighted. I'm looking forward to the draw tomorrow. We'll be back at 12:30 tomorrow. And if you haven't done so already, get subscribing on ACSOM on YouTube. There's a lot of great things happening. You know, we've got a wee list of awards on the right-hand side there. We won the Best Football Podcast in 2018. We were finalists in 2020, the Best International, and we're up for another 3. We're up for a treble, which means the ACSOM team will finally have that night out together, and it'll be down in London, and we're taking bets on who will be getting thrown off the train, who will be getting thrown out the venue. Russell Boyce has got his own thoughts on that. We'll all be on our best behaviour, and we're really looking forward to it. And Jungle Lion, for your information, has given us permission to use his Celtic man cave for a live bulletin the next time we're in Ireland, so we will be paying him a visit. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please join us tomorrow and we'll find out who we've got in the group stages. Thank you for tuning in to our Celtic State of Mind.